see me jump on to a different screen here within a half an hour. So
Nice.
we had our first day back with partial students coming and meeting us, even though we're doing e-learning. So it's amazing how tired you are, even though you don't do anything, but doing that all day. Like I literally came home, sat down on the couch and fell asleep. But physically I did nothing, but somehow that wipes you out.
Yeah, it is crazy.
It's all the talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's someone once told me like a theatrical performer burns the same number of calories as a marathon runner or something crazy like that. And I always thought teaching was similar. Like for you don't realize how physically active you are, but I think your brain burns calories, and I think you're processing so much as you're presenting that I'm the same way. I get to the end of the day and it's like stare at one spot on the wall, and then my head just goes through it gets everything's blurry. So I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me so I can mentally prepare.
Well, and I think part of it too for me today is, well, a couple things. The last couple days, so all since March 13th, I very rarely have had to get up at a certain time. If I got woken up by the kids in the middle of the night, didn't sleep well, whatever, I could sleep an extra half an hour, no biggie. Well, then Monday was the first day we had Teacher Institute, and my son, okay, buddy, and my son woke us up in the middle of the night. And then about the time I fell asleep, my daughter walks in. She has a bloody nose. So at 4 in the morning, I'm cleaning, or 3 in the morning, I'm cleaning up blood on the floor and off of her. And about 4 o'clock, I fall asleep. 5 o'clock, I fall asleep. And then the alarm goes off an hour later. And so I think it's just the week started off bad.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, then today, you're talking to the kids. You're going through the same routine 4 times. I think I had to give it 3 or 4 times today, but I also had a lot of downtime in between because, like I said, you only have a few students at a time. And so you're just kind of sitting there by yourself, looking at the screen, working on whatever. And, I think it was just one of those things where, it wiped me out. I literally sat down on the couch for probably not 5 minutes. And then I had to wake up because I had to go take one of the kids to cross country practice.
So the kids you met with today, they checked in with you online?
No, in person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Even though we're e-learning, they which I think was very wise, was they sent all the kids. So starting today through next Monday, so that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, for 4 days, they divided everybody up by alphabets, and they did a 3-hour section in the morning, 3-hour section in the afternoon. So the kids would run through all their whole schedule for 15 minutes each. I think it's 15 minutes for each class, 20 minutes each class. So that way every teacher can set up the Google Classroom codes with them, give them expectations, meet them. Some of our students we've never met. I think I've only met half of mine to this point, up till this point. So unlike last year where they just shut us down and we didn't see anybody until now, we get to do our introductions and get those important informations, how we're going to contact and connect with the kids. So it was nice. Plus, I think the kids were happy to see everybody. The teachers are happy to see everyone. We had to go to my kindergartner's teacher, parent, student conference thing today too. So that was nice for her to get to meet her new teacher. Same with our 4th grader. And then tomorrow, our 2 high schoolers and our 1 junior higher will get to meet their teacher tomorrow. So it worked out really well. Everyone had their masks on and all that stuff. So
how was that? Was that definitely awkward or?
No, not. It wasn't. It wasn't as bad as I thought. But talking to my kindergartner's teacher, she said all the kids have been really good with sitting there with their masks. The high schoolers, they sit there, they fidget with it, they mess with it. They have it below their nose. They get in a political debate about me when I tell them I don't care your politics are. The rules are this, so you're just wearing it. So get over it. So it wasn't horrible, but it was kind of weird when I'd go. I'm having the kids meet me in the outside shop. So I'd walk into the building. I had to do something real quick in the main building, and kids were walking by me, and it's just everyone just looked like freshmen walking the halls, even though they weren't. And that was the really weird part. It just felt like it kind of felt like your first day at school. Everyone just kind of looked confused, not totally lost, just a little slightly out of place. Like, I don't know. It was just, you could tell it was different, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Was there people they just trying to test? Is that what they were doing with the mask manipulation? Just kind of testing the waters, or?
No, the kids that were kind of had their little rant about it. It wasn't a big deal. I knew these kids were going to make the rant about it, like
Right.
I was prepared for it. So like I told them, I said, I don't care. I don't even care what I think about the masks. I said, whether they work, don't work, whether it's a political thing, medical thing, the rules are coming higher than me, so I can't change them. The rules are coming higher than our administration, so they can't change them. So I go, when we go to the job site, you have to wear them. So if you don't wear them, you're out of there. I said, and if you guys if you guys mess around and there's an opportunity, you guys could ruin this for us at the job site, since they are letting us go to the job site in person. I said, you're out. Like, I'm not blowing a chance to get to work at the job site because you
Right.
think it's political. I don't care if you think it's political. I've seen enough of that on Facebook. Whatever you believe about it, I don't care anymore. It's the rule. The rule is the rule. The rule. Like I said, it's just it's different when you go into somebody's house that once you take your shoes off, you just be respectful and do it. I don't care. It has nothing to do with anything except the school's rule is this, and I am the teacher who has to enforce the rule with you.
So you're the only class that's meeting in person, though, right?
As far as a structured class, yes. On Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, I'll meet with two groups each day. There'll only be 6 students, so the kids will only get to show up to the job site once a week. But they get 2 full hours of straight 100% working one-on-one with me. So that is a high quality 2 hours, even though during a normal week they would have got 10 hours on the job site. Whatever quality you want to relate that to, ratio, I don't know, but they were cool with it because up till this point they thought they were going to do everything virtual for building trades, and weren't too excited about that. So now I was talking to our ag teacher, and they got things going on too because they're a shop class as well, and so they've worked out to where small groups will come in and do some things as well, like maybe 3 or 4 kids at a time. So it's one of those things where the school's trying to find a way. Well, because technically the school's not closed down, because we can be in person. Nobody said we can't be in person, like legally, like we can do that. And the school's open for teachers to have office hours. So that way, if there's any one-on-one instruction, I know for our little kids, our kindergartner, they're working on, especially since that's when they're learning to read. They're working on setting up, bringing in like maybe 1 or 2 students at a time that are at like same reading level, to work together with the teacher maybe once a week or whatever. So they're making efforts to. It's almost like a very loose hybrid kind of thing, I guess.
Sure.
I relate it to college. You got your class, your lecture, your lab, your office hours. It's kind of like that.
Nice.
Primarily online.
So is 6 your largest class size, or is that your average, or?
Well, so I have 2 class sessions, and there are 15 people each. So there's 30 students, and I have 5 work sessions on between Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. So assuming all 30, because we can't make the kids come to the job site and do this. They have to get permission from their parents, sign a form, which we think all 30 are going to want to. And they have to get themselves to the job site. Like they have to have their own transportation. If 6 was the magic number between 5, out of 30. So that's what we, which I'm super excited about, because if I could have 6 kids every time, that'd be amazing, right?
Totally.
So
you-
like, go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you? I totally forgot what I was gonna ask you.
Are the kids picking their time frame that they get to work? Can it change week to week, or are they assigned a time?
So what I'm going to do is I'm allowing them to give me their top 5 people they want to work with. I will give them, I'll do my best to match them up as well as I can. Seniors get seniority. They also get to pick their top 5 work sessions, which surprisingly, a lot of them are going for the early ones, like the very first one. I was shocked to hear that like every single one has picked the 8:30 start as their first choice. So they get to rank their start times. And I told them I won't promise anything, but I will try to accommodate that as best as possible. And I also told them make sure you pick the people you want to work with, how well they work, not just because of your friends. Because
Totally.
so now once they're in their group, they need to stay in their group. We won't crisscross groups unless there's just some reason they have to switch a group. And then what I'm going to do is they're going to have to wait 1 week, kind of like a quarantine week, before they can go to the next group. Just to say we're doing our due diligence for the COVID stuff. The school didn't say I had to do that, but it's just one of those things I figure right now we got the okay to do this. Any extra precaution I can take to show that we're taking extra steps for safety just looks good, and I can use that as an argument if somebody starts complaining. So, but all the kids are super excited. They when I tell them this, like I said, most of them are coming into this not even realizing this yet because we've had no connection with them. And so they're like, yeah, all right, cool. They're excited about the idea. There's only 5 people in the group. And because they remember last year how I'd give a direction and tell them to do something, and then I'd have to go take care of another thing, even though they had more questions popped up, but they'd have to wait for me to come back and blah, blah. I mean, you know how it is. You're running around a classroom, a shop, a job site, whatever it is, trying to deal with 15 students. I had like 3 or 4 groups on each session, so I was doing laps on that place. So they're excited about the one-on-one time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can see that being super appealing from a student perspective. How many times do we hear shop teachers like, oh, I was waiting on you, and sometimes it is an excuse, but then sometimes you do see that point of frustration, especially for that kid who doesn't know how to advocate for themselves. Like sometimes I feel like I'm an auctioneer or something, and somebody just didn't know how to raise their bidding flag high enough, and I completely overlooked them. And and that doesn't always feel good. So this could be one of those paradigm shifts towards the smaller, more realistic class sizes.
Yeah.
Other Matthew, what's up, man? Have you dropped in on one of our panels before? I feel like you have.
Yeah, it was probably March, maybe early May.
Okay, I was trying to remember when it was. Let's see, you're a fellow Michigander, right?
I am. I'm in Frankenmuth.
Okay, and can you give me a quick refresher of the grades you teach and the classes you teach?
Yeah, I'm 912, mechanical drafting, architectural drafting, CAD, wood shop 1 and 2.
Cool. And what are things looking like in your district?
We're gonna have half group Monday, half group Tuesday, half group Wednesday, half group Thursday, and then all online on Friday. So
Really,
red gray days essentially for our school.
All right. And then how long do you get to work with that half group?
They haven't told us, and we just voted as a union to give up our duty-free lunch, so that they can contact that or count that as contact hours. And so while we're teaching during our lunch, that will get the kids out of the building faster. So essentially, we start at 8, and students will potentially be dismissed at 1:30.
So the trade-off is your lunch. You gave up your lunch, but your teaching hours end earlier in the day.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And so we'll have a 30-minute lunch technically from 1:30 to 2, and then we'll have an hour of online to check in with our online learners.
Okay, so you're doing both you're doing both face to face and online.
Yep. There are kids that have chosen full on virtual for the semester are going to go through Michigan Virtual. But the kids that are home on quarantine are going to have some sort of contact time in the day. So that's going to be that hour at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's multiple types of audiences we're trying to address. You know, there's the online, mostly homeschool, really.
Yes.
There's the in-person every day, and then there's like the in-person who might not be in person for reasons, you know, and so you still have to be able to address them. It's not an easy hand to play, that's for sure.
No.
So for your CAD classes,
Yes.
have you found ways where kids can do a lot of that from home?
Yes. I have a kind of an unorthodox method of teaching CAD for my first year mechanical drafting students. And my classes are all mixed. So I have mechanical 1, 2, 3, 4, architecture 1 and architecture 2 all in the same class. And so I've got kids, of course, working on all sorts of projects at different levels. But their first year, I give them, we start off with mechanical draft. Actually, we start off with sketching. Then we go to mechanical drafting. Then we go to two-dimensional CAD, which A+ CAD is the specific one. Then we move on to Tinkercad, so they get some 3D modeling. Then they do OpenSCAD, which is all code-based, which I think you're familiar with, OpenSCAD.
Yeah.
Yep. And then finally we get to SolidWorks at the end of the year. And I know it's kind of unorthodox, but I have always had different CAD softwares through my upbringing. And having the exposure to all these, I feel like my students are better prepared for wherever they end up. So they have some experience in varying areas and they can more easily adapt. So
I think there's truth to that. There's plenty of truth to that. The different CAD programs are amazing in how similar yet different they can be.
Yes.
And just like everyone has their favorite medium of art expression or genre of music, I think CAD lends its way to that too. And in some ways, it's pretty admirable that you take that shotgun pattern approach, because I know it comes at a little bit of a tax on you.
It is.
As an instructor. But you know, if you're doing architectural and mechanical 1 through 4 authentically, there's no way you could stick with, you know, Fusion isn't. I can't think of a single program you could professionally use for both industries.
Yes. Yeah.
So you'd have to be nimble.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I was curious. I feel like CAD is probably one of the most user friendly to make remote compared to, you know, like your woodshop class.
Yeah.
But it still comes with its own set of problems. I teach a CAD class, and I started using Onshape because it's cloud-based friendly and everything else. But yeah, I still ran it. I say my CAD class was actually, I had video tutorials made before the pandemic happened. I even explained to my students, like, this could be a remote class. Like, you don't have to be here, really. Like, everyone watched the tutorials. They moved at their own pace. And then the pandemic happened, and CAD was my least responsive class. And it was like, oh man, I thought I had at least one thing ready to go. But a huge part of it was 95% seniors. And a lot of the seniors were just doing it to get the computer credit they needed. So they weren't really into it to begin with. So then when they found out they didn't have to be super accountable, it was pretty much teaching in a ghost town after that. So
yeah, my drafting classes are all math certified. So I get a lot of seniors taking that as their math credit their senior year.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Huh, interesting. Michael, what's up? How's the chicken doing?
Well, the wife just walked in, so now I got to go to Lowe's and get a different tank of gas so I can start grilling it. I've had it on a brine for half the day, so it should be all right.
Nice. And that's the boss, the superintendent, right?
The assistant soup.
Assistant superintendent.
Oh, we've been doing our contact tracing. She said
Contact tracing.
yeah, I can tell them you had a hard day, right? Very long day for her today.
I bet. Oh my gosh. I don't.
Yesterday, and we are supposed to have our kids back next week. It's looking a little dicey right now. We're trying to do a blended model where half the alphabet goes Monday, Tuesday, everybody's virtual Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday's the other half of the alphabet. So
you guys are moving on top of all this?
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So we started building a house, which probably won't be done till spring break or towards the end of the school year. So we sold the other house I was in, and we're in a house about a third of the size of what we lived in. So I've got me, my wife, and our 4 little roommates all piled on top of each other in here for the next, 8.
Oh my goodness. That sounds like the things of nightmares to be part of the education sector like you guys are and moving a family with 4 kids.
Yeah, it's all right.
During this time.
We run the Hot Mess Express around here. It's just all one more little thing to throw on time. Whatever is what it is. So.
Yeah, kudos to you, man. You just let us know if you need anything. Well,
I'll do that. So I'm about
cool.
to off here, go get my stuff, and then I'll pop back on later if you guys are still here.
Sure. Pop in and go as you please, man.
All right. I will talk to you guys in a little while.
All right, see you, Michael.
Hey, Mike.
Sean, what's your status update looking like?
Well, we only got approved to open virtually. So the only student contact I get is when they come and pick packets and stuff like that up. We had yesterday and a day for it tomorrow, and then next Monday they can pick up packets or whatever we have for them. And then we start virtually on Tuesday. And I have two intro classes, a woodworking class, a CAD class, architectural design, and then we have like a workforce readiness class that I teach. So it's a nice mix. They gave me a nice mix of classes this year.
Easy peasy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Normally I probably have like 3 different preps on a busy semester. 4. They decided to give me 5 because we didn't have anything going on.
That's nuts.
Are you doing electronics there, Sean, this year?
If we do it, it'll be in spring. It's just not scheduled for fall. And then for CAD, like you guys had mentioned, I was looking at doing Onshape. And then figuring out for sure what I want to do for my architecture class for that CAD program. And basically what I did is to start out the year, because I don't know how many of my students even have computers at home or whatever, I sent out like gigantic packets of 1/4-inch graph paper. And I said, if anything, we'll hand it.
It sounds like I don't mean to take shots at your district here, and feel free to correct me here, but it sounds like what you're describing is not much different than what happened in March.
So the issue that they have a bunch of Chromebooks and they'll give them out on case-by-case basis. They tried to make an order for everyone in the school, and they told them delivery would be in November.
Really?
Or back, the different distributors are booked.
Okay, that makes sense. So, wow, man. What about how many students are in each of your classes? And have you met them all? Do you know them all?
So I teach a few upper level classes, and they've had to take the prereqs. So I know probably about half to 2/3 of my students. I won't know any intro students. So that's 2 of my classes where I won't know any of them.
And are you going to do live meetings like this, or?
So our instruction is asynchronous, so we don't have to meet. I'm going to try to set it up during the first week where, hey, come meet me. I'm available. We use Microsoft Teams. So like I'll be on for, 6 hours straight, just pop on and we can have a chat or whatever. And then my one class, the workforce readiness class, is a lot of discussion. So we might set up a weekly time where we just meet on Teams or Zoom or whatever, just to do some of that kind of stuff. Because there was a lot of like, we come in and we talk about a specific topic about, interviewing skills or, how you present yourself to an employer and and we would just sit and talk for the whole hour. I wouldn't even have to like give out or collect anything from them. So
Sure.
that we might try to do some of that as synchronous.
Yeah, absolutely. Crazy. Well, Nick, you're on the highlight reel this week because I shouted you out on the. Actually, two of you are. Tim's got a shop tour that he put up on IGTV. And I didn't make it all the way through. I got interrupted, but I was intrigued until I got interrupted. And then Nick, you did a shop tour too, and that was really cool. But also, and I'm going to peg Matt on this conversation when he can chime in too. You two are both in districts right now that are, I think, leveraging your media producing capabilities, and I think from the outside looking in, that looks like something that more districts should be doing. But again, you can correct me on that thought train. Nick, you were hosting a professional development last time we checked in with you with other teachers on how to do some of that stuff, correct?
Well, I was going to use the 360 camera to kind of map out where the ninth graders would have been going to class. But I played with it in my room and I showed my principal. And as I was talking to her about it, it's like, well, if I map out the whole school, it's kind of, it's through Matterport, so it's public domain. Granted, we can let certain people know the website and everything, but it's like, yeah, that's probably not a good idea to use that to, show the building and everything because it's so detailed. I was amazed when Matterport sent me back the link for my room itself. It's like, wow, it really is detailed.
It really is. Yeah, you could. I mean, it's like the type of thing that like firemen and police officers should have on their like smart glasses or something. But it's at the same time, it's the type of thing you don't want in the wrong hands. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
So I am, I think, going in next week to do sort of a virtual tour with students, and we have a senior experience called WISE, and those WISE students and another group for newcomers uplifted, which is upperclassmen mentoring, like the freshmen coming in. They're going to come in, and I'm going to videotape them and produce all that for a video for them to see on parent night or whatever, however they're wording it, for the ninth graders to get a tour of the high school.
Nice.
Thing.
Yeah, that's cool. I guess you could take a you could take a Matterport and keep it private and then screen record yourself going through it. It's a little bulky of a workaround, but now what role do you think this media class will have, if any, in helping create online content or remote learning content?
That's the thing. Like, I know the kids are going to come in for the interview and stuff and all that next week. For like my morning announcements group.
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to have them shoot me media that I can then put in to a Final Cut document and then edit it myself and then put it out, type of thing, because it'll be coming from different students and everything. I don't want to have 15 different announcement reels to play through for the week, type of thing. But
are you guys are meeting face to face or virtually?
No, we're going virtual until October 2nd. They'll come back the 5th if anything doesn't happen.
Okay,
and then we'll
so
do hybrid, which is once every 4 days.
You're trying to find a way that your media students could create content at home, send it to you, you slice, you curate it, and then you output it to the district.
Yeah.
Interesting. And are there any other teachers trying to utilize that space for trading?
Luckily, it's my own wing, and we're with this whole virtual thing. We're mandated to come in as teachers and be there from our contractual time to teach. And each one of our classes, we have to Zoom for at least 15 minutes of the class at the beginning to take attendance and do whatever during that 15 minutes. We can go our full, not 83 minutes or 86 minutes, but we have to bare minimum at least have 15 minutes per each class. Every Monday we have to put out all of our assignments for the week to all our classes, no matter what. And then another point was brought up, well, during class, we normally have discussion time and, worksheets here and there. We have to put all that stuff out on Mondays too, when they never give us a valid answer. So,
Wow.
I can understand the concerns of the other teachers in the building because they're in academic wings basically, and those air handlers are all just recycling that air. I'm at the end of one of the wings by myself next to the custodian office in the loading dock. So I'm breathing my own air. I'm
Yeah.
fine with that. I
get
understand their concerns still, but
Yeah, that's an overlooked reality that a lot of people aren't realizing is a lot of these buildings aren't exactly air exchange friendly or well climate controlled, like they're not the best facilities you want to be in, and with large crowds for sure. We're there's kind of a blessing in design, but we're on top of a huge whole bunch of radon. And so as a result, they've had to put in really good air exchange in our building to keep all the radon out. So that's working in our favor. I think I'm slowly building lung disease when I go home, but I'm pretty safe in the school building. So, but yeah, I've thought a lot about that reality of I even remember as a student, I remember not having comfortable classes, you know what I mean? Comfortable climates, and you pack a bunch of people in a room and there's a pandemic going around with the cooties, and that's reason for valid concern, I think. So Matt, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah. What
Okay.
You started to tease a couple of things that your media class is doing. It sounds like
Yeah. I just sent you and Ron that text message real quick when I saw the janitors throwing away these huge TV boxes, and was like, what the heck are those for? And went up there to the media room, and they're getting their studio in check. So that's what they're starting to do. You guys still there? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, my phone's about to die, so I'm gonna be walking across the road to get on the computer here in a minute.
Oh, take your time.
But yeah, so I was talking to the media teacher because we're trying to set up a show with the building trade show, and they were saying how they want to be able to use the media room for teachers to be able to come in and, I guess more professionally, even though it's not a professional, but it's as close as school professionals we can get, do tutorials or whatever. So the idea is for them, especially during this e-learning, is to use the other teachers to create the content, so the idea is for the other teachers to use it with the help of the media students and stuff. And I know they've been letting the media students come, and they've done interviews with our principals. We have a YouTube channel called Tommy TV because of our mascot's Tommy Tornado. And that's how, in fact, they even tell the parents, subscribe to the YouTube channel. They cast out information like you do the news. So it's pretty cool.
That is cool. I'm super intrigued by this, and I'm kind of disappointed in its evolution. Like I feel like in March, if this would have happened, and it's always easy to be an armchair quarterback, right? So I don't mean to be doing that, but in retrospect and in reflection, I feel like if I was in a leadership position, I probably would have said, hey, students, you get a longer spring break. Teachers, you know, we're going to give you every tech tool, and we're going to contact the folks who run Masterclass and Pluralsight and lynda.com and skillshare.com, like these people that are already in this arena, and they're going to be your consultants, and we're going to tool you up to help do this remote instruction style, not to replace in-person instruction, but to help build this style, because once we get back to normal, it'll complement your in-person instruction. And that's how my CAD class is. And I've been thinking, because I ran like if you look up my videos on Onshape, my tutorials, they're horrible. They're one-take videos where I do a demonstration, I screen record myself, I'm bumbling my way through it, but they were recorded the night before I would send them out to my students. And I just knew it was an improvement from trying to get everyone to follow along while I did it on the projector. And then I just put them on YouTube, mainly to warehouse them easily without clogging up my cloud space and everything else, but they're not very good. And I've been looking for ways to improve it. Well, when all this happened, I was kind of like, oh, maybe we'll get some of that coaching and some of that instruction. I've been disappointed. I haven't seen much come out in that area at all as far as support goes.
Yeah, we haven't. I don't know if we've done it. We haven't done any like really coaching to do the videos, but our school district has been amazing at getting us resources. We have Castify screen capture or whatever.
Yep.
Software. We have the premium version, so we can do unlimited videos, screen capture videos and stuff.
Nice.
So it's we're well tooled, but we haven't been taught everything yet. But
right.
we have plenty of people who are willing to help teach and help out and stuff. So
that's
we
cool.
have support. We have support.
Well, the other cool thing about it, Tim, I remember a while back when this all started, we like lost one of the recordings, and you're like, oh, it's a bummer we lost it. And I remember thinking like, it's not that big of a deal, Tim, because it goes out, it gets out of date really quickly. And you brought up a point that stuck with me, and you're like, well, it's cool to see the evolution or the progress or the historical document of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, Tim's right. Because if somebody was to go back, some historian, we've probably got one of the largest database of teachers' reactions to coronavirus on YouTube right now. Some historian in the future might go back, and as they're analyzing how educators react, we might be their primary source. And that's the other, not just would it and empower us if I feel like we were coached and tooled up better for remote instruction, but also involving kids in like the historical documentation of this once in a century phenomenon. Let's hope, anyways.
Well, the other thing is that the nice thing about it is that we've done this every week since March 13th. And we did it like that random Thursday. I think it was just me, you, and Ron. And we were just shooting the breeze. And it was one of those things where it was like, what are we going to do? What do you think is going to happen? And this and that. You know, so we have almost every week of some type of change to the educational system documented in one of these videos. So it is amazing to have that, you know, there for others to quote unquote enjoy, you know, or like you said, use as resources.
Yeah.
And you know, it is cool that we have been so versatile and had the opportunity to do this, you know, so.
Totally. Now you've taught media and radio production and different things or whatever in the past. Do you plan on utilizing more of those skill sets given the current circumstances?
Well, when I taught video production, it was still linear. It was still linear video editing. So literally it was 2000. Yeah, in 2000, they were still doing like VHS tape to VHS tape. That's right when nonlinear, programs started to come out. Like Premiere was very rare then, and some of the other programs that were out there were very rare. None of the schools had them. And when I was doing my student teaching, it was teaching, insert editing, control track, and audio dubbing and camera shots and things like that. Some of that still falls into play today, but I've been so far removed from that.
Yeah.
I've literally struggled with Premiere, and but I've tried it. It's just, things don't happen the way I want them to happen.
Yeah.
My brain doesn't think that way. And it's one of those things where, you want to do something one way, but you're thinking it's like, insert edit or insert this, yada, yada, yada. But you have to figure out how the program has it established. And if you don't know how the program has it established, that's where you get frustrated.
Yeah.
Like
it'd be like doing AutoCAD exclusively and then walking into SolidWorks or three-dimensional CAD. It's a whole different tool.
Yeah, like you can't, like you can use your preview window, and then the preview window runs your bins, and the bins runs the, your elements that you put in, and then you got to place them into the timeline. Then if they're on this timeline, it's stacked because you see this timeline over this one, but they're not in the right order. So it's a learning curve.
Yes.
But it is one of those things where fundamentally I know how it works, what happens, 60 frames per second,
right.
Or, 30 frames per second or whatever it is. And all those things where, I have the basics, but
yeah,
when it comes to going from nonlinear, from VHS tape to VHS tape to something that's, just click, drag, and insert is totally different.
Totally. And one of the things we don't have time for right now is another learning curve.
Yeah.
We're very scrapped for time and another learning curve. And that's why I guess I'm kind of disappointed. I was hoping someone would give us more, would filter out the plug and play tools for us and say, here's a low learning curve, high result tool that you guys can use. Here's some strategies. I did find one teacher who I have followed before and networked with before, mainly because he utilizes classroom economy style instruction, and he's inspired what I do in that arena. And he did put out a course on video production. It's like a $29 course, and he goes through, here's how you do it low cost, here's how you do it so you're not wasting a bunch of time editing. Here's how you format your video, because just like, writing a letter or whatever, you might have your intro, your body, conclusion. Same with video. And I feel like video can get away from you really quick. Like you start making a video, and next thing you know, you're like 45 minutes in, you're retaking a shot for the 80th time, and then you watch it and there's no linear thinking, like you're all over the place, or it's just like it's crazy. So I think it can get out of hand really quick. Whereas at least with like a letter or a writing, you can see where you're going, where you bumbled, and things like that. So if the content I see in this is useful, I'll let you guys know, and then you guys could explore it yourself. But that's where I'm at. Like I said, so we're going back to face right now. Believe it or not, my largest class size is 9 students. We are low numbers to begin with, and then we've got the trend for a while has been more people leave the area than come in the area. So that's, was projected that numbers would drop to begin with. But then we've also got, homeschooling population is growing due to the COVID stuff. Online schooling interest and whatnot is growing. And so far, we're not offering an online option. We're just doing face-to-face. So some parents have left the district for that reason. So right now, my largest class size is 9, which puts me in a pretty good spot for spacing people out in the shop. Oh, and I don't have to teach Spanish this year. So I actually get to hang out in the shop all day this year, except I do have a CAD class. So hopefully our internet signal will be good enough that I can stay in the shop for that too. But like Matthew was saying, with architectural 1 through 4 and mechanical 1 through 4, I have a little bit of that beast going on as well, where I've got 6th through 12th grade, and I've got students who I can't run the same curriculum for every kid because they're just, it could be a 6th grader I have for the first time, a 12th grader I have for the first time, or a 12th grader I have for the 6th time, you know. So video instruction I have found to really help make my in-person instruction quick and nimble and almost individualized. So I don't know. I'm gonna click into this guy's course and see how it goes, you know, and see if it will make me more efficient at it. Because again, if you look at my YouTube videos on how to use Onshape, you'll see that they're one take, if any editing, you know, at all, and they're bulky and they're clumsy and they got away from me. And you know, Ron said he might pop in. Ron would advocate that, and I agree with him, that we'd all more or less get our own production team. You know, like when Matt sent that picture to us, like Ron, I think Ron's response was, every teacher is going to need one of those before long. And I think there's some weight in that argument.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're saying about learning curve with trying to figure out something new. My local community college here is probably 15 minutes from my house, and they run adult non-credit courses. And I signed up for a Fusion course because
nice.
I have to, if we're going to be doing remote learning or hybrid, I have to do Fusion or some type of a CAD that the kids can get access to, because there's only so many articles you can review. There's only so many papers you can write. There's only so many things you can do. But if you give them, say, the tool of Fusion, you've now increased that, you know, tremendously, because you could say, design a table with these constraints, you know, in Fusion. And my problem is I don't know it. And when you ask somebody, they're like, oh, here's a book, just read the book. Well, I don't learn that way.
Sure.
You know, I don't learn. I need to literally be seeing somebody show me, like, you got to click here and you got to click here. And that's what I'm hoping to get from this course. So it's a 3-night course, and we'll see how.
Do you got to go to the university, or is it online?
As right now, it's in person.
Okay.
In person. So.
Yeah, I just started playing with Fusion a little bit this summer, Tim, because I needed it for something to 3D print, and I'm good at SketchUp, and I've done Onshape. Personally, Fusion and Onshape I find to be very similar in the way they act, like where you draw on the plane and then extrude, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Well, they're both.
I'll tell you what, it was easy to learn.
They're
what, Tim?
Aren't they both Autodesk?
Yeah, it's an Autodesk. Yep. And I tell you what, I picked up the Fusion 360 super. I mean, I'm not an expert at it, but to do what I needed to do quickly, picked it up pretty quick. Now, like I said, I had some background already in Onshape and of course SketchUp and even AutoCAD 3D. But yeah, I think you'll like Fusion 360. It was simple. You just have to. It's just all like you were saying. You got to think how that program thinks or acts.
Yeah, I've done a lot.
For me, I had to get used to. Oh, go ahead.
I would say I've done a lot of programs. Like I've done a lot with InDesign, and I know InDesign really, really well. And I know some of the things in InDesign transfer over to Illustrator and Photoshop. So they're very similar in how they operate. But when you go into, say, because I played with Fusion back in March. Yeah, in March before we went out, I played with Fusion and I actually drew a part and we cut it on the CNC. But it was like, I just want to do this. And you can't. You got to select the tool and then tell the tool what to do, and then you got to do it. And in InDesign, it's just like you click it and drag it, you know. So that's where my thing is. I'm thinking of this program as like a page layout when it's not. You know, you're not doing page layout. You're building a part, and that's where my brain usually hits the crossroads.
Yeah, because you're thinking in layers, where these programs work on faces. And, you know, so you have to get to that surface, that face or that edge or that point, and then work from that spot. But I tell you what, I watched a couple Fusion 360 things on YouTube, and they were really good. In fact, like I've always wanted to know how to like model, like say you took like a Iron Man helmet mask, right? How they make all that. Like I know how to make simple shapes like nuts and bolts and whatever like that. But it's like, how do you get those irregular things? I know his is a little bit more geometric or whatever, but in this guy, and they showed a tutorial how they do all this. I was like, oh my God, that's so freaking easy. I couldn't do it. I couldn't remember every step, but watching that tutorial, because I was looking for something, how to design stuff to make the relief cut with this wood CNC, like the design, how to make that. And 360, like how they do it is so simple. Like I felt like I could do that with a little bit of guidance, like a cheat sheet next to me.
Yeah, I did. I learned Fusion through. There's a gentleman on YouTube. It's like Learn Fusion or Die Trying or something. And he was very, very good. And I took care of that using that, and that's how I drew my part. I watched this guy's YouTube thing like 3 times, and then I watch it, and then I pause it, and then I go do it, and then I pause it, and then I do it. And I thought his was done very well, but there's just sometimes you need that person with you to show you how to do it. And that's why I signed up for the course. And I would like to add Fusion to my tool bag in terms of being able to teach that, because I want to have something practical that they can do. And I ran into one of my students' moms by mistake. I stopped at a it was like an antiques like flea market place near my town where I work. And I walked up, I saw one of my students. I'm like, what are you doing here? He goes, oh, my parents own this place. So then I ran into his mom, and I was talking to her. And she said, well, what do you think about the school year and yada, yada, yada? And I said, I don't think we're going back. And I said, well, I am thinking about using CAD. And she goes, that's awesome. I want my kid to learn CAD. He's got to learn CAD, for the future. It's a great way to think. It's a good resource. So at least I got some positive feedback from at least one mom saying that is a good way to go instead of doing like say papers per se.
I got that. Well, since we started the house building program, I don't teach it anymore, but one of my students, his mom is one of like our junior high tech lady. And I think he wants to go into engineering, and he was doing something with school, talking to a school or talking to somebody. Anyways, they're talking about the AutoCAD, how much he knew on AutoCAD. And like, I thought I was, I don't know, proficient, enough on teaching it, and I didn't think it was anything too crazy or whatever, but they were like blown away by how much he had known that I guess came directly from what I taught and stuff. So I was like, oh, feel good moment. But right now we're trying to figure out, and I know Sean messaged me, and so we only have 3 students in our AutoCAD class. And I was talking to the teacher, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to do this. So we were seeing if the school would let the kids have a laptop, since there's only 3, but they wouldn't let the kids have the laptop because they couldn't guarantee security on the laptop and blah, blah, blah. So we're like, okay, we get it. So we're still scrambling to find out what to do with CAD with these 3 students. And if it's me teaching it, it's no big deal. I'd probably switch over to like Onshape since it's web-based or something and go that route. But our teacher, he's a little bit old school. He actually went to school to be a draftsman and model maker by hand. So technology is, he's learning, but it's a lower learning curve for him, So we're trying to figure out what to do with the CAD stuff. We still haven't got it figured out because we were using AutoCAD, and you got to have a computer that can handle that. And I don't know. Those 3 students, we don't want the AutoCAD to go away. He thinks it's very important. We don't want it to fall the wayside, because right now we could go back in 9 weeks. We don't know in person. So I don't know if anybody, Matt or anybody, come up with something on CAD. For me, I guess I always think architecturally because I'm a builder, but and the thing is, I don't know. I'm fearful to have him do Onshape because then I feel like I will be the one having to do it or teach him, and I don't know if I'll have enough time effectively to do that and everything else. And so, he's semi comfortable with AutoCAD and stuff now. I mean, what are you guys doing? Any of you guys come up with a plan for e-learning with CAD completely? I guess.
Have you heard of Titans of CNC? Dude, you gotta. I highly recommend Titans of CNC. This guy. Oh, you'll love this guy because he taught in a prison, like you, and he and Matthew. It looks like you're familiar, so correct me if I'm getting his story wrong. But I think he was in prison, and somebody taught him CAD, and he realized that was his escape route. And now he runs this company that makes parts for aerospace industry. I'm pretty sure he's got parts in space. And he started this online program to teach people because he realized it saved his life, and he puts it out for free. Now, here's what I do. He uses Autodesk Inventor. But like you were saying, Onshape and SolidWorks, and they're all, it's like Microsoft Word versus Google Docs versus Apple's Word. You can do a lot of the same things. So what I started telling my students is do a Titans of CNC project. He doesn't use Onshape, but you'll figure it out. Just look at what he's doing and try and do it in Onshape. It was bulky and it was messy, but I gotta say, I think the learning value was better because it was, they couldn't just monkey see, monkey do. They really had to wrestle with a couple of things. And his content is, I think, it's some of the best online content, especially for free, that I've seen. And he does, what I like about what he does that I can't do is he comes at it from an industry perspective. So I don't know how this would look in architectural world, but in mechanical world, I can render this in Onshape. But the way I say render, because I can create a 3D representation of this. It may not be how the CAM machine, the CNC machine, or the engineer wants it to be represented. What I like about Titan is he comes at it from an industry perspective and say, this is how, your manufacturer is going to want this print drawn up. This is how you want to think about design intent. And so he walks you through that much of it. And then he walks you through the machining part of it. And then he's got this, in some of his packages, a very innovative idea to say, if like you're a shop teacher like us, you want to machine it, here's the tooling package you need. So you just click. I'm sure he takes a little commission off of that, as he should. And then you got like a pretty plug and play project in your hands. Matthew, has that been your experience with it?
I haven't used it a lot. I've watched some of his videos and it seems really good. He's a great inspirational speaker. He's really pushing U.S. manufacturing. He seems to be a pretty great guy. And yeah, he has turned his life around because of manufacturing. And he's probably a millionaire now based on what I've seen. But anyway, it looks like it's good stuff. I haven't gotten into it very deep. So
yeah, some of it, like, you're always going to need, like, even Tim was fessing up to the fact that he needs somebody there to, tell him to do this. Some of it is, unless you're really driven, so you're still going to need that in-person coaching to a degree, or some sort of mentorship, and as far as providing that motivation and inspiration. But so some of it's only going to go so far no matter what. But if you got that part of the equation, Titan's got the other part, I think, covered by a long shot better than anything else I've seen out there.
The other thing is, we're all teachers. We've all been in the classroom. We know how we learn, as a person. Like, I might be really good at learning, computer programs in person. I'm really good at watching a YouTube video and learning how to do that skill. So there's certain environments that you, as a human, are going to know that you need help with. And when I tell somebody that if I learn software, I need to be in person with somebody, that's because I've learned for the past 40 years of my life. That is how I learn. Okay.
Sure.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
And
don't think I'm not saying that at all. Okay, good.
no.
Just wanted to be sure you were clear on my intent there.
No. I'm not directing this at you. This is
Yeah.
not directing at you. But if somebody said to you, well, just go read this book and you'll be great at X program. Well, that's not the way I learn. You may learn that way with that software. I don't learn that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you said to me, hey, Tim, can you show me how to do something in Photoshop? I don't say to you, go read this book and learn it. I will sit down and show you how to do it because that's
Right.
how I know how to do it.
Well, I think one thing that's tough to replicate in remote instruction, which Ron has brought up, is kind of the social pressure, the peer influence. But the other thing, and also just looking across the room and seeing like, oh, I can do that with Photoshop. You know what I mean? When you see somebody more advanced doing it. But even without that, it's hard to see it in a way where you feel like it's achievable when you're at home by yourself working. So this is what our students are facing. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to see, like when we bring them in, we can usually show them like Bloomquist can say, look at this house, we're going to build this house. And he's there in person to reassure them that this crazy idea of a house from start to finish, he can reassure that, he can validate that belief and really get them believing it. And now they have a purpose, they have a lot of motivation. But when you're at home by yourself, logging in to maybe Titans of CNC, what you're exposed to is what you can do with it doesn't come with the reality check of, oh, it's going to be long, it's going to be a climbing learning curve, we're going to get through it together. It doesn't come with that. It comes with this intimidation factor. And so when you're at home trying to digest this, whatever it is, whether it's Photoshop, architectural CAD, or knot tying, I don't care. That end goal is harder to get, to maintain your motivation.
But the other thing is and this is, you can relate this to the design process because it's just a conversation with the kid sitting next to another kid say, hey, what are you going to make?
Sure.
That kid's going to be like, well, I'm going to make, say, a toy truck. And then that kid says, oh, that's a great idea. Maybe I'll make a toy car, or maybe I'll make an airplane. And that generation of solutions, you don't have to draw a toy plane. You can say to a kid, I'm going to build a toy plane. I don't need to draw a picture of that. But right there, those two real quick conversations just came up with two ideas. Yeah. And then some kid might say, well, I'm going to make a boat with wheels, and then somebody's like, well, maybe I'll make an airplane with fins of some sort, and then it starts getting like, maybe I'm going to make a helicopter that can go underwater, and then it starts coming up these crazy ideas. And now they're having conversations that they won't get in person, but
right,
they're getting inspired of maybe they can try to outdo themselves.
Yeah. And the other thing they'll be missing out, I always found out when I was teaching the CAD class and 3D modeling class, was, hey, how'd you do that? And then that kid shows. And like in the AutoCAD, I would just sit there and I'd let it go. Like, I mean, I want that as a teacher. You want that. Like, I was all for, heck, in drafting class, I had the rule was if whoever got done first was allowed to go help other people answer questions. And I mean, I got it to the point where I had some kids that were so good, and me, Matt, and Ron, and we've talked about this on this before too. The class started running itself, and it allowed those advanced students to do more without actually having to give them more assignments, So yeah, I mean, that's another thing I was worried about. And I know the CAD teacher right now, the teacher that's doing those classes, he relied, because he's learning with the kids. So he was relying a lot on the kids, that grasped it early on to help him even. So, he not only lost that part, but he lost his support of helping get taught as well, or work together, the teamwork, I guess, collaborativeness. So those are good points, Tim.
When I taught desktop publishing, my old school, which actually I really liked teaching that class because we would go through some text things and graphics, and I wouldn't really I'd show the kids a little, like what's a text box, how to draw a line, how to put a shape in. And then I had like I really had that one course that I figured out the timeline where I knew on day 3 we need to be doing this project, and on day 5 we got to be doing this. So somewhere between there, I would say to the kids, play. And they look at you like, what are you talking about? Play. Play with the program. What do you mean? Just try stuff. There's nothing you can screw up. If you're in the program, there's nothing you can mess up. You know, put text over another text, or put pictures in, or draw a line, or, you know, make stick figures, and just play. So you get an idea on how to zoom in, how to use the tools. What's the worst thing you do? Close, reopen, don't save anything. You're just playing. And the kids really didn't grasp that, you know, until they say, what do you want me to do? Play, figure it out. That's how you learn.
You know how I learned how to use so many more commands in AutoCAD because of that method? Like, like for the kids, like when they got done, I'm like, draw whatever you want. I don't care. Just put it on its own file. Whether you save it, don't save it, I don't care. And then all of a sudden we go by like, how did you do that? They're like, oh, but I'm like, I had no idea. I didn't even know you could do that. And then, or they found a quicker way to do it. And I was just like, all right. And then we'd stop class and be like, hey, you guys remember when you couldn't figure out how to trim the line properly or whatever? If you do this, it goes even quicker. And then everyone tries it. And oh my gosh, you know? So yeah, that play, that was, I used that one a lot with the AutoCAD and SketchUp too. Just like, especially at the very beginning, it was just like, just click on every button you want to click on, see what happens.
Yeah, it's that self-discovery. The self-discovery is important because, you know, they can show the other neighboring kid that when they say, hey, how'd you do that? And they're like, well, I don't really remember, but I think I did this, this, and this. And then it happens, you know, so now they're reviewing and they're refreshing and they're talking about it. So we're getting that higher level processing, you know.
And if you think about how they learn, I think the learning curve might be a little bit more shallow on these types of things, and the motivation's definitely higher. But if you think about how they learn Snapchat, you know, there's not like or TikTok or whatever, you know what I mean? There's not like this genie that shows up and shows them how to do it. There might be a little icon that flashes over here or that, but essentially by the time they're done, they've done nothing but play with it. And then it's like, and then they come up with stuff that the developers didn't even know could be done on, you know. And so I think there's some merit to that style of instruction from time to time. Absolutely.
Yeah,
now, what I like,
you can't run a course like that. I mean, it's got to be put in at the right time.
You got to, I agree. Because direct instruction has its place as well. And so I guess right now what we're doing is discussing exploratory learning or constructivism, where they're constructing the knowledge themselves, versus, you know, the opposite extreme would be the direct instruction, monkey see, monkey do. And in my experience, what I have found is too much of one or the other. Too much of one's not good. There's a balancing act, and where that balancing act, whether it's 80-20 or 20-80, is going to depend, I think, a little bit on your audience, is what I've discovered in my teaching. I've done both extremes, and when you do too much of the play, the frustration's there because they don't feel like they're getting a return on investment. It's too contrarian to every other education experience that they've had, and they don't know how to handle it. And then at the same time, you give them too much monkey see, monkey do. Well, then they don't ever get to experience any individual autonomy or the self-discovery that you're explaining, and that can be problematic as well. So I think we do a good job, some of the best jobs of trying to reach that balancing act with what we do with shop and everything else as well. Now, what I like about Matthew's shotgun approach to CAD, I think that will be a little bit more conducive in a remote learning environment in a way, mainly because if we are going to learn something at home, it's going to be something that we're into a lot. Like Tim's going to go work on his Model A Ford. He doesn't need anyone. Maybe he does, but he probably doesn't need anyone to say, hey, go do this, go figure this out. Now for CAD, he kind of does, you know. Same for like the kid who might be into like programming HTML code. You know, he may not need that And so I think that's where the shotgun approach that Matthew was kind of talking about of exposing kids to different things might do you some favors, because then some kid could be like, well, I'm really into SketchUp because I can do interior design better in SketchUp. And, you know, the other kid's like, well, I want to reverse engineer a Briggs and Stratton motor. They're not going to want SketchUp for that. They're going to want, you know, an Onshape or a Fusion for that. So we might have to be flexible in that way with whatever at-home instruction we have to do.
Yeah, I mean, and on a totally other, note, I mean, I would never walk into the second day of woodshop class and say, "Hey, go play."
Yeah. What? You don't do that, Tim? I thought that.
No, it doesn't work that well.
Or what?
But you would probably be picking up a lot of fingers, and you'd be cleaning up a lot of blood. So there are different environments that fares well in.
Yeah.
And it is one of those where, as the instructor, you need to determine that. So in the beginning of woodshop, you need to have a lot more, I guess, direct instruction, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. Well, that's a lot there. Is there anything? We'll kind of start wrapping her up here. Any closing thoughts? Any topic suggestions or questions you want to hash out for next week? Anything on your guys' radar that you want to share out? Something you've seen lately in the news or on the internet?
I ran across there's a page on Instagram called Saturday Shop Tour.
Ooh.
They do. I'm going to try to get them on here one day. So I just met him virtually through messaging on Instagram. He saw my little thing I did, my shop tour at school, which I thought was like, not the best, but I guess a lot of people enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And because nobody's really seen my shop, if you will.
No, yeah.
And so he saw it and he said, "Can you do it again? Because you did it in portrait mode when it really should have been in landscape mode. So I have to do it again in portrait mode or landscape mode for him, and then we might talk about it." So I want to get on this podcast or this meet and see what he has to say, and maybe we can talk to him about shops and things that he's seen and because he has on his YouTube channel, he has a bunch of different like shops, but some of them are like cooking places, some are welding places, some are art studios, some are wood shops, some are just people's garages. And it is very informal, but he reached out to me, so we're going to it's called Saturday Shop Tours, I think the exact.
Yeah, I just found them. That's what I found under a Saturday Shop Tour. Yeah, we'll have to get them some Matterport files too. I'd like to. And by the way, I did put a link in there. Did that link end up working, Michael, for the map?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're putting together a little map of what school you're at, where you teach.
No, I don't have a picture of myself yet to put in there, but I can.
That's fine. I'll Google your name and find the ugliest one to put in there.
You're the first one.
But we'll make that available to the attendees of the meetings. We'll probably just reopen it every time, just as a way to kind of refresh all of us with who's who and where's where, and makes conversation flow a little bit better when we can recall that familiarity. So check that out. I got to finish up Tim's video, your tour. I think that was pretty cool. And then Nick, did you end up doing a Matterport of the shop?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to see it, I can share it if you want right now.
Yeah, that'd be cool to see. Post the link. The type of thing we could put in our newsletter, or do you want to keep it?
Well, right now I have a free account and can't share it, so I'd have to shoot a video of it.
Oh, all right, nice. I might be able to. Matt, I think Matt and I have paid accounts. We might be able to upload it to ours.
Maybe. I haven't tried.
I'm not sure either, but we'll look into that. I know we get only so many spaces, but I'm not using all mine right now. So
Yeah, because he might be able to log into one of ours and upload it that way, maybe.
yeah. So Nick, I'll look into that, and if I'll email you or message you on Instagram if I feel like that'll work, and then do that. I got to redo my shop because I just got the paint job done, so I'm all giddy about that.
Yeah, that looks good.
Hey, congrats on not having Spanish.
And I'm not teaching Spanish. I know it. I'm like, whoo. So.
Whoa, you're not teaching Spanish this year?
No, not this year. So I asked the boss why. He said I wasn't good at it.
Hey, whatever it takes.
No, he said, I think it was taking a year off because we don't need to offer it every year. The kids need it to graduate, but we can, and then that's, I was talking about small class sizes come with their own set of challenges, I think. And with Spanish, I feel like there's even more challenges because you like almost need some conversation or flow. And the smaller your audience, the less likely you are to have those like confident few students to at least keep things going. So I'm glad. Oh, and my middle school is every day for a semester, whereas the past few years, it was every other day for the school year. And so I had two different groups, and I found that to be very frustrating because we're on a 4-day week. I'd have a kid on Thursday, and I wouldn't see them again until Tuesday. And then this was also the melting pot of 6th through 8th grade. So you can imagine the forgetting curve, trying to teach to the different maturity levels. And then it was just, so finally I got them to give them, I was like, I need them every day because I'm storing 2 sets of projects. So I'm happy about that. So despite this whole freaking, I don't know, COVID stuff, things are looking okay for me.
So, hey, Bloomquist, I guess he walked away, but when he comes back, I remembered my question for Bloomquist, and maybe some of you other guys can figure this out, or maybe if you have kids that are virtual. Oh, here he comes. Then we can stop talking about him. So, Bloomquist, are you responsible for the kids that are virtual? So if you have kids that are electing to stay home, you still have to supply them with work?
Yeah. So before we went completely virtual, we gave the option to be virtual to the parents. And then obviously we went fully virtual. So what we're doing is, and I don't know if I said this at the beginning, Tuesday and Thursdays are mandatory virtual days. So as teachers, we're technically supposed to be at the high school in class from 8 to 3:30, contractual hours. Now, what they're doing is on Tuesdays, you do a Google Meet with your on your odd periods, 1, 3, 5, 7, and they're each a half an hour long, and it's all knocked out by like 11:30. On Thursday, you do the even numbers, 2, 4, 6 periods, same thing, half an hour. You're done by like 11 o'clock. Now, for me, since I'm unique and I'm not at the high school, my class is the mobile classroom, and now that they're letting me do in person, and since mine is 3 periods long, I only have to meet with I'm not like the rest of the teachers. I can, in my 3-hour period, I can just meet with them once. So like, where the other teachers are doing like a combined of, I don't know, 4 hours on virtual, I'm doing a combined hour of 1. So yeah, and if I have students who parents either can't get the kids to the job site or they decide they don't want to, I will have to provide virtual for them. But even if we weren't full time, we were going to do, I think like Matt, it was either Matt or Mike. Matt was saying, we had the plan to have the kids out of the school by like 1:30 or something. So, or maybe we were 2:10. Anyways, it was the same idea. Get the kids in, get them out, and then that way it left us the last 2 hours of the day for our lunch, and then also our and time to work on our virtual students. So we had the same thing going. Matt and them had going where just work it through, get them out. Then you can do your lunch, do your e-learning within the contractual hours. That way, the school didn't have to pay us more for overtime or whatever it may be. And so, yeah, we're responsible for both, no matter the choice.
Yeah, see, we're not. We were told in a meeting on Monday that if a kid is hybrid, that is your kid if you're teaching in person. Now, if one of your students elects to go virtual, meaning no hybrid learning at all in school, you are not responsible for that kid. They're going to be pulled out of your class, and they will be provided or given to a virtual teacher. So I don't have to worry about, is this kid virtual or is this kid hybrid? All my kids that I see are going to be hybrid. Now, does that mean that one of the 5 shop teachers in my department have to be virtual? It might mean that. And one of our guys volunteered to do that. But
when we were supposed to go back in person, they asked if anybody would want to be virtual teachers solely.
Yeah, and then he made the decision. He goes, I would do it. He goes, I knew it worked, but they may not have the same course offerings of, instead of having, say, 10 courses offered, they may only have 4 courses that are going to be offered or 5 for that one virtual teacher, and say, these are their only classes are going to be virtual. Those are the ones.
Well, that's crazy. Well, I'm excited to see this historical documentation develop further. If there's something you're like, man, that would really help to have this hashed out, shoot us an email at shopclasspodcast@shopclasspodcast.com. And if you want it, if it's type of thing where you don't want it to like be the spotlight to be on you as you try and figure out this issue, we'll just present it as if, Ron and I came up with it and we're trying to hash something out. So don't be bashful there. Email that. We want this to be a resource for you guys to, get guidance on areas you're struggling with and different things like that. So don't be afraid to utilize that. Saturday shop tour. I followed them on Instagram. Be cool if we can get them on here. Nick will look into the Matterport thing. Tim, I haven't forgotten about your shout out episode request. Will be, I think Ron's kind of back on planet Earth. I'm not sure, but I'll be checking in with him here pretty soon. And then, I think all of us will be rip roaring and going here before long. So,
yeah, I'll make the connection with this Saturday shop tour.
That'd be awesome.
We'll see what we can bring him in. And so let me talk to him about that. What he's going to do for me is, because I told him I can't go in on a Saturday and film my shop. So I think I'm going to film it on like after school one day, and then he'll edit out or edit whatever needs to be edited. And then he would play it for his Zoom call people and then interview me about, shop teaching and, your shop.
Nice.
So
nice. Yeah. That sounds like some awesome crossover stuff. So,
yeah.
Sweet, man. Any closing thoughts, words of wisdom? Tim, how's the Ford? Doing good?
No, I haven't worked on it. Haven't worked on it. It's
I'm just teasing. So
yeah, it's busy life. I worked 12 hours today.
It shouldn't be another thing you have to do, right? It should be a thing to do. So what's the big deal, right?
Yeah, I work part-time with my brother-in-law. I cut down trees, and so I was out grinding stumps and running skid loaders today for 12 hours. So sometimes the days are really long.
Oh, sure.
It is one of those where you got to take time for yourself too.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Family. But it is cool to operate some equipment that you don't usually get to operate in the school day, and do jobs that are.
That's cool.
Nice to do that, and I've learned so much about just woodworking, taking trees down, and I see a lot of lumber go through a wood chipper, and my heart just pounds every time I see a piece of cherry or walnut or a big monster oak go right through the chipper. Especially when my brother-in-law can chip up to 18-inch pieces of wood. And I'm like, you just chipped a piece of walnut. He goes, yeah, I know. I got to get rid of it. It's easier to get rid of in chips than it is in pieces. So it is one of those. But
yeah. All right. Well, thanks again for everybody for tuning in. We'll be here at same bat channel, same bat time next week, and reach out anytime. All right. So I'll talk to you guys later.
all right, see you guys.
Take care.